Hello and welcome everyone. I am Sanju Pancholi and I'm with Alexa AI and accountable for product management, currently focusing on Alexa conversations. Today I'm also joined by our early adopter partners, Eric Posen from Atom Tickets, Miles Skorpen from OpenTable, and Zoubin Ghahramani from Uber. So, this is what we plan to cover today. Just to give you a brief overview, we'll start off talking about why voice. I don't want to make the assumption that all of you currently have a skill or interact with voice capability on Alexa. So it might be a good review for those who are just getting their journey started with voice. We will then move on to what customers are talking to Alexa about and what is it that they expect from Alexa. And more importantly, why should you care? And then we'll start to talk about the product that I've been working on, which is essentially a new paradigm for developing skills using AI. And then we'll turn it on to our early adopters so that they can share their perspective of what does this mean when they are building their experiences for their customers. And more so, what's the value in creating these experiences? We'll leave you with a few call to actions that you can consider, but totally optional. Okay. So why voice? Voice is natural to us. We learn to speak before we learn to write. And that's probably the reason why we have moved on from type to touch to now talk. It's a hands-free way of interacting with ambient computing. It allows us to do more. It frees us up to multitask as we are getting other things done. And so it shouldn't come as any surprise that people are accepting smart speakers faster in their lives than ever before. This year alone, we expect 45% more customers to buy smart speakers compared to last year. Now that's a meaningful jump. At Alexa, we see this appetite for voice borne out in numbers. You will see these numbers repeated time and again because we feel quite honored that customers choose to speak to Alexa on 100 million Alexa-enabled devices in 80 countries, in 14 different language variants on 90,000 plus skills that are developed by organizations just like yours, represented by hundreds of thousands. If you consider the form factors that Alexa has started to take, she's no longer just at home. She's also with you in your car. Alexa is with you on the go. She is now in more places than ever before. And it's not just the number of times people interact with Alexa. It's also the variety of things they do with Alexa. Whether it's controlling smart device or playing music or getting information or interacting with organizations that are represented by a diverse group of companies from CPG to retail to media and entertainment, health, wellness, the list goes on. And that's what makes this conversation relevant to all of us who ever expect to engage with a customer on an emerging channel. But I must also say that customers have raised the bar. In 2014, these are the kind of things that represented what customers were doing with Alexa. They could get information, they could control smart devices, and they could play music. You've heard anecdotes of Alexa being able to do this from day one and these being representative of the majority of use cases. Fast forward to 2019, and customers have raised the bar, as they should. They know that Alexa can give you information, but can she have a conversation with you? They know she can control your smart home devices, but now can she help you solve higher order problems? Yes, she can play the music, but can she help you troubleshoot? And these are the conversations that customers are bringing to Alexa today. These should be exciting problems for all of us to want to solve, because latent in these conversations are opportunities for all of us to have a dialogue with the customer on brand engagement, to help them solve their product and services needs in the moment of recognition when they realize that I need it. And not only that, why stop at brand awareness and transactions? Why not take the same channel and then create a positive post-purchase experience with an always-on customer service? I don't want to leave you thinking that these are the only use cases that you can enable with conversations on Alexa. We've heard innuendos towards Alexa also being able to serve as companion for those who aren't able to use their eyes to read. These are just limitations of my imagination, not our collective imagination. So, think about what conversations can you enable with your customers. But before you can start to unlock the value in having conversation and dialogue with your customers, you have to solve the hard problem of conversations. Conversation, as has been insinuated many times in keynotes and breakout sessions thus far, is not as easy as it sounds. Because having a dialogue has to do with transfer of information. It has to do with understanding the decisions that need to be made at each point in time. And it has to do with taking appropriate actions that are relevant to a customer's goal. When the goals are simple, everything that Alexa needs to do can be communicated with a single utterance. Alexa, play What a Wonderful World. She knows she needs to play music, and the name of the song is What a Wonderful World. Now, take that and start to have a conversation about a higher order problem. But why higher order problem? Because that's where customers see the utility of something like Alexa. When you're starting to solve more complex problems, there is more give and take of information. There are more decisions at each point in time. And hence, there are multiple actions that can come in context of the same conversation with different individuals. This is what we refer to as dialogue pathways. You can try to premeditate them, but it's not always easy. And until you start to evolve your conversational capabilities and take it to a complexity where you start to understand the customer over a period of time, that's when you can bring in things such as what Stephen was referencing, reasoning. Because that's when you bring in higher order intelligence into that interaction that is more meaningful and higher utility for the end customer, which is why this becomes an engaging channel. So, we've talked about the opportunity, we've talked about the value in going after the opportunity, and now we've talked about why it's not easy to solve it. That's where Alexa Conversations comes in. I'm delighted to announce today the availability of preview of Alexa Conversations, which is Alexa's AI-based, deep learning-enabled approach towards developing skills that makes conversation on Alexa-enabled devices natural. For you to be able to engage your customers on this channel, you have to talk to them naturally. If you can't engage them, you can't see conversion. You can't see success towards their goals, which ultimately transfers as success towards your goals. But what makes a conversation natural? What is natural? There are certain attributes that we think that a conversation has to manifest for it to be perceived as natural. Robustness, flexibility, contextual, and proactivity. What do I mean by robust? This has to do with the variety of ways in which we express the same semantic meaning. There might be customers who may ask about the movie summary by plot. Some may say synopsis, some may say summary, some may say quick rundown, and the list will go on and on and on and on. I don't think you should be expected to premeditate all the surface form variations for you to then map it back to an intent then signals the action Alexa should take. You see, when you limit the ways in which customers can talk to you, you're essentially imposing a burden. You are telling them, talk to me the way you would want to talk to a machine. Learn to talk to me. And guess what? In the context of conversation, that's a conversation killer. No pun intended. And that's essentially the implication of robustness in your capability to build a dialogue. Alexa conversations are robust in the way that they are designed. Flexibility. When you force a customer to take a certain pathway, when you force a certain thought process for them to accomplish their goal, you are killing discovery. You are killing exploration. Customers love premeditated pathways just as much as they love phone tree options. And the idea behind conversations created with Alexa conversations is to make them flexible by not making the developers premeditating all the possible pathway. I may come to a conversation knowing the movie I want to watch. I may come to the conversation knowing the time. Or I may come with the specificity of a movie at a theater in a time. This is just using movies as an example. The example and the idea and the concept scales beyond movies. It could be towards pizza ordering. It could be towards picking a graduation gift. You name it, right? The notion still applies. Conversations built on Alexa conversations are flexible. Context. Sharing context is about understanding references to entities within your skill and the skill that may come after yours. Imagine you talking to your friends. If I were to talk to my friend and say, Nathan, what's the performance of a BMW X5? And in the very next sentence, I say, Nathan, what's the fuel efficiency of a BMW X5? Nathan, what's the safety rating of a BMW? Guess what? By this time, Nathan has most likely left the room. And that's essentially how customers will treat their interactions with Alexa. If you make them repeat information again and again and again, you are forcing them to believe that they're talking to a dumb entity. And if that's the rapport you're building with them from the get-go, then chances are they are never going to delegate higher order tasks to you, because they will never even think that you're capable of solving these higher order problems for them. Carrying context is more than just adding efficiency. It's about showing the customer that you are smart enough to understand what they mean without them having to repeat it. Customers don't have to repeat information when you build your capabilities with Alexa conversations. The next thing I want to talk to you about is proactive. See, proactivity is about initiative. When the users have to take all the initiative, it can get burdensome. But if the next step, the next logical step in your goal is apparent, Alexa should be able to propose that to make it easy for you to move forward by just saying yes or no. And that can only come if you start to understand what's the most logical next step after this particular step. Proactive conversations are easy for customers to get things done with your skills on Alexa. At this point, you're probably thinking, yes, this sounds great. Yes, I want to build natural conversations. Yes, proactive, robust, flexibility, all that's good stuff. But what are you going to make me do? Because as is, it's a lot of work to try and enable something to be conversational. What if I told you that Alexa conversations actually requires less effort on building skills? Case in point, you saw in the keynote video the ability of your customer to get things done with Atom Tickets. Now, Atom Tickets is one of the early adopters. They've built an experience, they're part of the night out experience, but they have a skill that allows you to get movie tickets. When they were building skills, they started off with this level of effort, 5,500 lines of code, 800 data points, and so on and so forth. When we were trying to build the night out experience that you saw in the video, we were able to create very similar capabilities with about 70% less code, with just 5% of the data required. Now, it's not a ding on Atom Tickets. They've done a great job in building a good skill that does very meaningful things for the customer. But it's the efficiencies you get in the approach and the paradigm that's used within Alexa conversations that allows you to accelerate and build skills with just this level of effort. How do we do this? We start with what you have. We start with the APIs that already power your existing applications. Currently, you are having to put dialogue management on top of this to make your same application enabled by voice. Instead, we use the existing APIs, take the experience you want to create, represented by dialogues, handful of dialogues, and then generate these pathways that the conversation can go in. Premeditating pathways means writing rules. Generating them in data means embedding them in an AI model. The AI models generated for your specific skill in Alexa conversations uses your sample input and expands it by orders of magnitude to bring that fluency, that naturalness, that flexibility, that robustness, that contextual interaction and proactivity in your skill. Now, I can stand here and go into the details of each one of these, but instead I will do one better. There is a talk tomorrow by Josie Sandoval in this room at the same time that not only shows you the developer experience of how to build on Alexa conversations, but it actually gives you a juxtaposition between the current paradigm and the new paradigm so you can evaluate if the deltas are worth your while. Moving on. Discoverability is another challenge that the AI within Alexa conversations addresses. You heard Brohit in the keynote talk about reactive discoverability with name-free skill invocation. For those of you who do not know that, it's your ability to just invoke something or an activity within Alexa without having to call a cab. So instead of saying, Alexa, ask Uber to give me a ride, you could just say, Alexa, get me a ride. Or Alexa, ask Roomba to start cleaning. You could just say, Alexa, start cleaning. But what happens in those cases is the initiative to take the action is still driven by the customer. Yes, you didn't have to figure out which skill does what, but you still had to know what you needed to do next. We like to make things even more easier. That's where Alexa's ability to connect entities, activities, actions come into play. If going to the movies is a thing that's connected to eating at restaurants, or eating at movies at home is a thing that's connected to ordering food, then perhaps it makes sense for certain customers in some context to do the same thing. So now you are able to suggest things that don't exist just in one skill, but could exist in other skills that are in context of this conversation with this user. And that's the beauty of proactive discoverability. Alexa is now able to then say, after you bought a movie, perhaps you might want to eat out. You saw an example of that, and by the way, this is something that's pretty real, where if I've just bought a movie ticket and I'm the kind of person who likes to eat out, it's very natural to give you an option to eat out, but not just anywhere, not just in the other end of the town, but perhaps where the theater is. So Alexa is smart enough to ask you at the end of that purchase, hey, will you be eating out near the theater? And if the answer is yes, great. Now I didn't make the customer tell me, Alexa, find me restaurants near Regal Cinnabar Palace Station. All they had to do was say yes. That's the value of proactivity, right? It makes it easy for the user to extend what they can accomplish in the same conversation by saying just yes. The trick is that Alexa has to make sure that she's getting smarter and smarter and smarter to understand what is relevant and what is not. Because don't get me wrong, her purpose is not to try and sell customers things. Her purpose is only to make getting things done easier. It's the same notion that if I've just made a dinner reservation, why not also offer a cab? Now that might be more relevant in New York City than it might be relevant in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. But that's, again, a question of context. To build a night out experience that you saw, we wouldn't have been able to do without the early adopters and the early partners that are here today to share their perspective. What I would like to do now is to invite them one by one and give them the opportunity to share with you what does Alexa Conversations mean to them in terms of experiences they're now able to create and the value of these experiences to their business. Because they are more likely to give you a perspective from your side of the table. So with that, allow me to first invite Eric Posen from Atom Tickets.
I got it. Hey everyone. I'm Eric Posen. I'm a principal product manager at Atom Tickets. And let's switch these slides here. I'm a principal product manager at Atom Tickets, and I'm responsible for the customer experience on all platforms. We made Atom because of how difficult it was to organize a night out to the movies with friends. I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that, but Atom is geared towards a younger demographic, and we're trying to build the premium night out experience and the premium movie-going experience you'd expect from a modern-day app. Social features that make it easy. Invite friends, pay separately, sit together. Pre-order your concessions, skip the line at the theater. If Yeah, the future is now. You can pre-order your popcorn, you get to the Avengers Endgame premiere, and you don't have to wait in that line. Just go right around. It's ready for you. It's hot. It's fresh. We launched back in 2015 to just a few theaters in a small test market, and we've come a long way. We're now on every major platform, including iOS, Android, web, Alexa, which we'll get to in a second, and we're ticketing for almost all major theaters, including AMC, Regal, ArcLight, Landmark, many others, and in just a few weeks, we'll be launching Cinemark. And with Cinemark, we'll be covering supporting 80% of the box office. We also power ticketing for this little-known Amazon company called IMDb. And we're well integrated with the Amazon ecosystem with support for logging with Amazon and Amazon Pay. So we've dabbled in voice already. Last year, we wanted to launch on Alexa. We knew many of our customers are using login with Amazon and Amazon Pay. And they kept asking, when is Adam going to be enabled on their Alexa devices? And that makes sense. There's a natural synergy with those customers. And we also saw an opportunity for Adam to be discovered by Alexa users that wanted to order movie tickets. And what was currently on the market just wasn't very good. So we got really excited about it. We wanted to do it right. We're talking in the office, we're like, we're going to support Amazon Pay, we're going to have reserved seating, and you got to support reserved seating. Almost every major theater in any city is reserved seating now. LA, New York, SF, Vegas, Seattle. They're all reserved seating. So if you're not ticketing a reserved seating theater, you're basically not selling any tickets. But nobody had done it yet. Nobody. So we built it. We built what we thought was the best way to go to the movies using Alexa. So what does that look like? Let's take a look. Turns out, pretty complex. Turns out there's a lot of steps to buying a movie ticket. It's not like Alexa, play Billie Eilish. It's a lot more complicated. So let's go through it. Humor me for a second. All right. Welcome to Adam, the best way to go to the movies. What would you like to do? Buy tickets. What movie would you like to see? Spider-Man, Far From Home. This is my best Alexa impersonation. Please hold your applause for after. What's your zip code? 90026. Okay, here's some theaters near you. Which theater would you like? ArcLight Hollywood. Would you like premium or standard? Okay, guys, I'm not even halfway done, but you can probably get the point by now. And you might laugh, you might chuckle, but we actually cut out as many steps as possible. With our reserved seating algorithm, we automatically select the best seat. And that saves you a clunky seat choosing process that you can't even see. And of course, you can change it later in the app really easily. And with Amazon Pay, you don't have to set up a payment method. So all of that, it helps a lot, right? But this is still as optimized as we could logically make it. And of course, if you just use the app, you could do all of it way quicker. So needless to say, when we launched it, the results didn't knock our socks off. And even when we were building it, it reminded us of something that existed even 15 years ago. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? IVR. Movie phone, yes. Guys, I'm not that old, and even I remember using movie phone. You call in to the 1-800 number and go, welcome to movie phone. And there's even a Seinfeld episode where Kramer's the movie phone guy. But I digress. So when Amazon came to us and showed us where they were going next, we were excited to jump in with them and help them integrate our API. So now let's take a look at it with Alexa Conversations. So you can already see it looks a lot cleaner. So with Alexa Conversations, Alexa could already know all of the following before Adam is even brought into the conversation. Things like what movie you want to see, where you want to see it, when you want to see it, even the number of tickets you might want to purchase. This cuts down the flow significantly, right? It turns it into a short conversation. It could actually be faster than using the app. So now when you're talking to Alexa about a movie, which hundreds of thousands of users do every single month, you could have an experience as simple as this. Spider-Man Far From Home is playing at the ArcLight Hollywood in premium and standard formats. Which format would you like? Standard. We found a 9:30 p.m. showing with plenty of room. We've selected the 2 best available seats. Would you like to continue? Yes. Your total is $20. Shall I complete your order? Yes. That's it. 3 words. I said 3 words. With contextual, please, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. That's the future we were imagining, right, when we were originally building our skill. That's what we wanted, but we didn't have it, and now we do. So with contextual conversations, most importantly, there will be users using Atom without having to ask Alexa directly to launch Atom. That means, no, Alexa, launch Atom, or Alexa, ask Atom for movie tickets, which just not that many people are going to do, right? So we anticipate better engagement and better conversion, because that's what is lacking. We want to drive more engagement and drive more conversion with less investment. And the fact is we're able to do this because Alexa doesn't even bring Atom into the conversation until we already know the movie, things like the movie, the location, the time, and the number of tickets. So in summary, you have more people using it, more people discovering Atom, fewer steps for those users to get their tickets, and doing this all with a third of the code that it took to build the original Atom Tickets Alexa skill. That's a big win. So we're super excited to be an early adopter of this and see how this can grow. And I'd like to thank Sanju and Amazon for the opportunity to partner on this, and thank you guys for coming out to listen. And now I'd like to introduce you to Miles Skorpen, who I'm sure is excited to share what Alexa Conversations is doing for OpenTable.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Miles Skorpen, and I lead the Consumer and Marketplace Product Management team at OpenTable. And among other things, that includes all the parts of OpenTable that you're probably familiar with if you've made an online restaurant reservation in the past 20-odd years. OpenTable is a marketplace business, and so last year we sat 1.9 billion diners at 51,000 restaurants around the world. And to do that, we've got the consumer products you're familiar with, and they're necessary, but they're not sufficient. We also have a suite of operational tools for restaurants called Guest Center, which help restaurants manage really complex operational needs and really manage the chaos of running a fast-paced small business. And that's the heart of OpenTable. We take what seems to you like a really simple proposition, can I make a reservation, and match it with really complex restaurant needs. And I want to go through a few of those complex restaurant needs and then tie it into how that works with voice technologies and with Alexa. So if you're a restaurant that's not particularly full, you need to be really thoughtful about what table you're putting your guests at. Because you need to make sure to spread your guests out over all your different server sections so that each server has enough tables so they can make the tips for the night, because tips are really important to their compensation. If you're a slightly more busy restaurant, you need to be really thoughtful about pacing reservations out over the course of the night, because you want a consistent flow of people coming in. If you seat every single table in your restaurant all at once the minute you open, your kitchen's going to be slammed with orders, and then you're going to have a lot of really unhappy diners, and your chef might quit too. And the third, and probably the most important example, is for the most operationally efficient restaurants. And they seek to squeeze in 3 turns. And what 3 turns means is they want 3 consecutive parties seated at the same table, usually 5 p.m., 7 p.m., and 9 p.m., because that allows them to maximize their revenue. And the challenge there is those times aren't perfect for diners. And so they need to be really thoughtful about when to throw in the towel and say, you know what, we're not going to get 3 parties, let's settle for 2, and do as best we can. So when a diner reaches out to a restaurant and says, hey, do you have a reservation at 7? It is not a simple question for the restaurant to answer. They can't just look around and be like, yep, we've got a table, you're good to go. Restaurants need to almost negotiate with their diners so that they can both figure out what works for both of them, what times are acceptable for both of them. And this kind of back and forth is something that some people prefer to do with a conversation. And they've maintained then their habit of using the telephone. And that's a real problem for us. You see, our main competition in the world is the telephone. We've been at this for 20 years. And over 20 years, you'd be surprised to know that for restaurants on the OpenTable network, half of their reservations still come in via the telephone. It's a little bit embarrassing for me as the consumer product management lead at OpenTable. I mean, I'd like to think our products are a little bit better than the telephone. But habits die hard. But the other way to look at this is a huge opportunity. You see, tomorrow our sales team could stop adding any new restaurants to our platform, and we'd still have an opportunity to double our business just by convincing people that OpenTable, that booking online somehow, is better than the phone. And that's where Alexa comes in. Our first Alexa integration was not sufficient, not robust enough, I think in Sanju's terms, to replace the phone. And we think a big chunk of that is people have a really long history of making reservations, and it's really there's a million different ways to try to make a reservation. They might say, do you have availability tonight? Or they might say, is there a table free at 7? Or can I make a booking for Thursday? Or when's your next open time? And each of those has very different pieces of context. It's very hard for an Alexa skill to understand that. And so supporting all this variation is super hard. And so the skill that we've built and that is out there today, our first integration to start, and they just couldn't do it. And so we're excited, really excited about Alexa conversations because we think it can give people the comfort and the emotional connection of a telephone conversation, but it can be even better for our users. How? Well, first, I think most importantly, even in the middle of a really busy dinner shift or in the middle of the night, Alexa is there to respond to the diner's needs, even when a phone receptionist isn't. Second, I talked earlier about the importance of 3 turns, of trying to manage this operational complexity in the reservation systems. And our tools, Guest Center, the operational platform for restaurants, allows restaurants to configure these settings in a ton of different ways to try to make that business work as best as possible. But those settings fall down very, very, very quickly in the face of an untrained or inexperienced phone receptionist who's trying to make a person on the phone happy. So by having the structured requests come in via Alexa conversations, restaurants can maintain their operational efficiency and reduce their costs and having to have so many phone receptionists while still giving the diner the same great experience. And third, I think this is really important, is that when you pick up the phone and call a restaurant, in most cases you're calling one restaurant. And so if the conclusion that you come to at the end of that negotiation is, you know what, this is not going to work for me, your phone conversation is over and you've got to go back to square one. Whereas with Alexa conversations, we can see a day where the next step is, hey, that place isn't available, but here are 5 others that are pretty similar and nearby that you can go on and book. We think that's fantastic for diners. And so the icing on the cake for all of this is, as you heard from Eric, we can offer this fantastic experience for diners with a really low technical investment on our end. And if this allows us to make serious headway in converting diners from their habit of using the phone to a much more effective voice system, that's a textbook high ROI effort for us. And so at OpenTable, we've got a motto, which is G43. We talk about it all the time, and it's the thing we look for in new products, which is good for diners, good for restaurants, and then good for OpenTable. And this is good for diners because it helps them make a reservation even more easily than they already could. It's good for restaurants because it helps them reduce their costs and better manage their operations. And then it's good for OpenTable because it'll help us accelerate the transition away from the phone. So that's it from the OpenTable side. And I want to pass on to Zoubin from Uber to tell you a little bit about their operation.
All right, thanks. I'm delighted to be here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about AI and conversational AI in particular at Uber. And before I sort of set the stage, I want to give you like a little bit of a high-level perspective on Uber as a company. You all know Uber as a company, but the way to think about it in the context of this session is that Uber interacts with people around the world at scale. And if you look at some of the metrics, we're talking about 17 million trips a day, 93 million monthly active platform users in over 700 cities and 60 countries around the world. And so that interaction with people is absolutely essential to us. And although the way Uber lives in the world is through the interactions with the people, at the heart of the company, there is the technological core, which is the machine learning and AI algorithms that live in the core of the company. So What do I mean by that? I'm using the terms AI and machine learning in a pretty broad sense. So I'm thinking about data-driven algorithms that build models, make predictions, and make optimized, automated decisions. And if you think about it, actually, at the heart of our company, there are hundreds and hundreds of these algorithms. So we're modeling ETAs, traffic, events, and the complex dynamics of cities. We're predicting driver supply and demand through our AI algorithms. We're trying to understand our customers. We're doing fraud detection, sensors, of course, autonomous vehicles, which everybody thinks about when they think about AI and Uber. But I'm trying to give you a broader perspective. Recommendation systems, computer vision, safety applications, et cetera, et cetera. And because we interact with people, conversation is absolutely essential to that. And I'll come to that in a minute. But I also want to tell you something else about kind of the role of AI at a company like Uber. If you're not thinking about that on a daily basis, which I am, of course. So there are a lot of companies out there that say AI is really important to them. And I believe that AI and machine learning in general is something that has really transformed a lot of technology companies. But at Uber, there's some things that make Uber a bit different. Okay, and so there are aspects of AI at Uber that are somewhat special. So in particular, many of our problems live in the spatiotemporal domain and in the physical world. And so that physical context, which I'll come back to when I talk about conversation, that physical spatiotemporal context is really, really important. And our algorithms need to operate in real time because people are waiting, they're trying to get from A to B, they might be in a rush, they're like maybe in a stressful situation. They have to operate in real time. And as I've mentioned, we interact with millions of people around the world in a very complex network of such people, and we interact with them through complex economic incentives, right? We have to combine our AI thinking with aspects of economics, human behavior, et cetera. And finally, our mission is to optimize the movement of people and things around in the world. Okay, so that's about AI, but obviously this session is about conversational AI and how the sorts of features that Alexa Conversations has built are useful to, for example, a company like Uber. So let me talk about what we're doing in conversational AI. Now, interacting with people is hugely important, as I mentioned. And so conversational AI is one of our priorities.
So, do you want me to respond?
Sorry. Let me go
Tell
back.
Yuzi I'll be right there.
Play that again.
Okay, sure.
Hold on. Let's go back. Okay, so here's a sense of how conversational AI can be important to the Uber experience. So listen now more carefully.
New message from Yuzi. I'm waiting by the Starbucks. Do you want me to respond?
Tell Yuzi I'll be right there.
Okay, sure. Ready to send it?
Send it.
Great. Message sent.
Okay, so these sorts of contextual interactions are absolutely essential to remove the frictions that we have between, for example, our drivers and our riders. We also have to think in a more broad ecosystem with our couriers, the restaurants we interact with, the truckers that are on Uber Freight, all of the people that we interact with, we have to build natural conversational interfaces with. So conversational AI at Uber has the mission to make interactions as natural as talking to a friend, and we've invested in this area in-house. And the products that we're trying to build center around riders, drivers, making their experiences easier and more natural. And in fact, conversational AI is so important to us, we've also invested in a whole AI research team that publishes papers, open sources software and tries to contribute to the larger ecosystem of conversational AI research that is, of course, well represented by Amazon's Alexa as well. So, so where does this all fit in with what we've been talking about here? Now, Uber's mission requires conversational systems that, like Alexa conversations, really understand multi-turn dialogues, so they can clarify intent. They incorporate real context, spatio-temporal context. They interact with people in many different languages. And these are the sorts of features that are absolutely essential to our mission to get us to the next level, to make the millions of interactions that we have with our customers as natural as possible. And we were delighted to see in the demo today Uber being accessed through Alexa conversations, and that sort of natural interaction is something that we're all aiming for together. And although conversational AI is really important to us, we're not going at it alone. We want to make use of the best tools, the best technologies, and all of our ecosystem of fantastic work that's going on in conversational systems. So with that, I'll stop and thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, OpenTable. And thank you, Uber. You heard from these early adopters the value that they see in the attributes that skills built on Alexa conversations are able to manifest, and the importance of those things in creating the engaging experience. What I'd like to leave you guys with is 3 things. Voice is at a point of inflection. Customers are bringing higher order problems to Alexa. And Alexa conversations can help you unlock the value in solving these problems by allowing you to build experiences that are conversational and natural, that require less effort, and potentially expose your experiences to more customers with its proactive discovery mechanisms. These stories don't have to be the stories of just the early adopters. Today, we're announcing the opening of Alexa Conversations Preview. Now, this is the point in time where those of you who have phones that take pictures can capture the QR code, which will take you to the page where you can register to be one of the few who will be invited to join us in the next phase of this journey. It's very important that you understand what are the conversations that are meaningful to your business, that are meaningful to your customers, that you want to enable on Alexa. Curate these use cases, these problems that you want to solve with conversations. And because it's so easy to get started, get on early, learn, iterate, and repeat. For those of you who are interested in further digging deeper, there is a presentation, as I mentioned earlier, by Josie Sandoval, that walks you through the developer experience, the how-to, and the comparison between Alexa conversations and the status quo. It's in the same room tomorrow at 2:15 as well. There is also a great presentation by Dilek Haqqani Tour on open domain conversations that we're enabling through a platform like Alexa Prize that engages universities to come in and take on the challenge of building a bot that can have a human-like conversation for 20 minutes with a rating of 4.0 as given by experts in the field. So, with that, I thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the conference, If you have further questions, we'll be waiting outside and happy to help in any way we can. Thank you.